Hello, this is the Falcon and the Dove, broadcast from March 3rd, 2007. I am the Falcon.
And I am the Dove. And here's the Prince.
And the Prince is here as well. Welcome, welcome. We hope that some of you are beginning to see some glimpses of what remotely might be late winter going into spring. Thank goodness it's March. March did come in like a lion in some places. And that's actually going to start our topics for the week, because we're going to talk about...
back.
The Falcons are back.
The Falcons are back, so Falcon's very happy about that.
Yes, I am, because if the Falcons are here, that means the food is plentiful and won't go underground to hide due to deep snow.
Yes, we're happy about the warm weather, but not global warming. Let's make that clear.
Yeah. And that global warming, of course, means bad weather, whether it be warm or cold. And, we're going to start our discussion today about some bad weather. We're also going to talk about, we have, of course, our usual shuffle mode of stories, and this week will be, we're going to talk about schools, and we're going to talk about some things that happened in schools this week, including one program in one city that was actually working, that was cut before they waited for the results to find out that it was actually working, which leads me to wonder who's working down there. But anyway, we're going to talk about that.
Tornado
we're also going to talk about
systems.
What can happen if you give bad grades and take away cell phones as a principal in Italy. Parents can become downright irate, and you may get in a fist fight. We're also going to talk about, once again, in the numerous examples of when art is creating something that hasn't been here before. The imagination of individuals creates something, and in this instance we're going to talk about Star Trek science fiction. Remember, a few years ago William Shatner wrote a book called I'm Working on That, and the book was about scientists who were doing things that were reflected somewhat in the technology of Star Trek. Well, another one has come to light again this week. Everybody who remembers the tricorder from Dr. McCoy, Bones, we may actually sort of have the development of a real tricorder system to perceive and diagnose medically.
Okay, also this week, our tornado warning systems. What's to talk about there?
We're going to talk about that, yes. We're also going to talk about Susie Orman, because she has a new book out.
Women and money.
Women and money, but that doesn't mean men are left out, and students, I want you to pay particular attention to that. And we're going to have some doggy stories this week.
Lots of doggy stories.
Lots of doggy stories.
More dog stories.
Great dog stories, tragic dog stories.
Really good ones this week.
Challenging dog stories. And we're going to talk about the Cherokee Nation, and I am duly qualified to talk about the Cherokee Nation, being Zeligi Deer Clan. We're going to discuss something. And maybe even a couple things about, what's that guy, a boy on his broom? Oh, yeah! Harry Potter is going to be in 10,000 plus theaters this summer when he opens on, what a day, Friday the 13th, July 13th.
10,000 screens.
So that came out on Variety today.
That's pretty good, and just to put that in perspective, Return of the King got 10,000 how much?
It was like 10,390 something. It was almost 10,400.
That was the third part in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So 10,000 anything is huge. So we'll talk about that.
Own that weekend.
Own that.
How are you going to compete against that? 10,000 domestic screens.
All right, what do we get to talk about first?
Let's talk about the rather volatile weather this week. The rather volatile weather around the world caused some problems with some pretty severe accidents. Obviously, we want to extend our prayers to the people in 4 different bus accidents on the same day that occurred around the world. And the one here domestically, of course, the Bluffton University baseball team on I-75. Extend our sympathies to the families, to the kids, the coaches, the university personnel. I can't think of anything more tragic and worse than a sudden accident. And this is one of the worst that can possibly happen. For those of you who may not know, they were traveling from Ohio, just south
Florida.
of Dayton, just north of Dayton, to Florida,
Yeah.
just south of Dayton. They're on I-75.
And they crashed in Atlanta,
They crashed
Georgia.
in Atlanta. It looks completely accidental. The bus driver apparently did not realize that the interstate
The road was
splitting and ending, and did not brake for the wall that was approaching, and
went over the wall.
Yeah, he passed away. His wife passed away, as well as 4 members of the baseball team. That is tremendously sad, and I'd like to extend my deepest, sincerest sympathies to your families. And of course, there were some volatile storms as well, and in particular, down south Kansas, Missouri, Alabama, Georgia, 21 tornadoes. Overnight and into the next morning a couple of days ago.
We've been seeing a lot more tornadoes lately.
Yeah, again, that's another global warming sign when you have incredibly volatile energy that you wouldn't normally have out of season. This is certainly a little out of season. It was tremendously sad. There were a lot of deaths this week. Yeah, the fall and later in the spring. I mean, certainly the spring down south in Tornado Alley
and it's
is
not
fairly
spring
volatile.
yet.
And,
so it's either very late or very early. Either way, it's not good.
It's not good. And, of course, everybody knows about the school in Enterprise, Alabama, that was hit. Again, a horrific week weather-wise. We extend our sympathies to those who've lost family and friends. But we need to talk about tornado warning systems because I heard 2 very different reports, and I don't know which one to believe. I heard one, there wasn't a lot of warning, and the other was, well, there was, but okay.
Right, yeah.
I'm going to say this as a parent who went through an emergency storm situation with my daughter when she was very young. I'm going to say this. We need to come up with your PTA, your superintendent, your school board of each district, or maybe we just need to come up with a level playing field of what to consider. When do you cancel school? When do you create delays? And when do you create early dismissals? And the line moves a lot. But here's what I'm going to say. No parent in the world is ever going to get upset if a school errs on the side of caution and says, you know what, we need to not have school today. Or, you know what, I know only an hour's gone by and we can't necessarily count this as half a day, but we need to get everybody out of here now because I understand that there were some warnings for a couple of hours. I don't know whether there were or weren't. And then by the time parents were coming to pick the kids up, it was really too late.
And that I understood that the reason why they after they had already decided that they were going to keep the kids there until 1. By the time the tornado was almost there, it was too late to dismiss the kids because then they'd all be out on buses on the road.
Right, and the buses were lining up, and the parents were lining up.
So they made the right decision there, but in terms of early dismissal, even earlier than 1 o'clock that day, may have been
more prudent.
Right.
And we're not going to second guess anybody, but we're going to say this. If bad weather is imminent that day, somebody needs to make an intuitive call.
Something as big as a tornado.
You know what? With that amount of volatile weather, don't take any chances. You know, parents will recover, kids will recover. We'll be okay. If we got to attach another day on the end of the year, is it really that big a deal? It really isn't. If you know that you have a pending snowstorm, don't try to get in a half a day and then try to send them home in a snowstorm. Or think, oh, well, we don't know what it's going to be like in the morning. We'll take a risk. My daughter and I had a really horrific situation when she was younger. I think she was first grade, where there had been a lot of snow, and then overnight it had warmed up, and 1.5 inches of rain had fallen, and her bus was the earliest bus in the county. And the next morning, we went out and thinking that school was on. There were no delays or anything like that. And really, what had happened was no one had time to truly assess the situation. And to make a long story short, there was horrific flooding. I almost drowned that day because I stepped off the front walkway of my house into what should have been the drain along the roadway that was now at least 3.5 feet deep and 4 feet wide, with my kid in my arms going down the highway and grabbing a mailbox to keep from drowning.
And then we ended up going back home anyway. Right after we drew our pictures.
20 minutes later,
right.
they had to bring them back out onto the roads with them flooded out, which is even crazy.
But yeah, first grade, and we drew a picture every day before we started, and all we did was draw our pictures, and then they dismissed us. So it only lasted about half an hour in school, and then.
But it was a mess because buses got caught in flood water, and it was really bad.
Right, I was lucky.
Here's the thing: we need everybody get together with your school board, your PTA organizations. Make this conversation a priority. What do we do if? And you know your region, you know what kinds of weather delays or weather cancellations your region is susceptible to. This is a hard conversation to have, but it's a conversation we must have. And say, what do we do if? You know how they say, have an emergency plan for your family? And if ready.gov, go to that website. Do you have an emergency plan? Do you know where you're supposed to meet? Do you know who you're supposed to call? Do you know what to do if you can't get a phone call through? Do you have an emergency evacuation plan for your home? Do you have an emergency kit packed up at home that you can pick up and run out of the door immediately if you had to in an emergency? The answer for nearly everyone will be no. If you don't have a plan, and you haven't talked to your family members, immediate and extended, and we don't have a set plan with a district on what to do in case of an emergency, an evacuation, or an early dismissal, these are conversations that we all need to have. This is another tragic reminder of the fact that there are things that we can plan for in advance if the worst scenario develops, and we need to be ready to make the hard decision and call it on a dime in order to protect our families and our kids.
Because these storms are bound to get worse.
Right.
And come in more frequency.
The fact that we're seeing, 15 feet of snow in New York and very volatile storms in the Midwest and in the South means that we're definitely going to have a year of volatile weather.
We don't want to wait until the worst storm comes to make a plan.
Exactly.
We want to start now.
We need to make plans. We've seen over the past several weeks where having a well laid out plan. If A happens, you do B. If C happens, we do D. And contingency plan. What happens if we can't do B? Do we have BA and BB? Do we have 1, 2, and 3?
And work out little scenarios with your family. Do little scenarios. Think, what if this happens? And you have to think on your feet. Well, what would you do in this situation? So that everybody in the family knows what to do in case anything happens. And
get a storm radio. Everybody should have
a battery-powered radio.
Battery-powered or crank radio so they can get NOAA on there, so they can get emergency weather information, so that if your lights go out and you don't have any electricity or gas, so that you have the ability to hear what's going on in your community and what measures you should take in an emergency.
And any battery powered radio. There's headset radios. There's Walkman radios. There's even products that have portable battery powered radios and big mega spotlights with them, all in one thing. There's ones that you can crank if you want to go out and buy one of those, and that's great. But have a battery powered radio. Have lots of batteries, flashlights, the usual stuff.
Flashlights.
And more.
Matches. Bandages.
Water.
A lot of water.
That you can actually drink.
For 3 days. If you had to. Have bottled water. Keep it in your garage if you have to. Keep it in your kitchen. Keep it handy. Keep it nearby.
And filters, too. Those Brita pitchers. Those pure things, because I've heard of people catching rainwater and filtering it.
Exactly.
And can you actually drink that?
Absolutely, because you've run it through a filter. Is it the greatest? Hey, it's better than nothing.
It's better than
At least you filtered it through your own pitcher or whatever,
right?
And you now have drinking water.
Right. So then, I think everybody should have a filter anyway, because healthy water.
Make sure you have some sort of topical antibiotic cream. That's the only time you'll hear me promote antibiotic anything.
Yeah, only the kind on cuts.
Yes,
the kind that you put on cuts.
Make sure that you have your medicines. Now, I know the game that's being played out there right now. You can't get 3 months of your medicine in advance because they won't let you have it at the pharmacy. Or doctors say you have to come and visit me in order to get that kind of and another appointment that you have to pay for to get that kind of backup. Mm-hmm. But get what you can and backup of your medication, provided that it's still fresh and time sensitive and that it would still be effective if a disaster happens. But so many people don't think about their prescription drugs. What are you going to do if you can't get your medications for a week or 2 weeks or longer? Do you have someone outside of your region who you could stay with or contact in case of an emergency, so that all family members can check in and say, okay, I'm in an area that's flooding right now, but I have a cousin in Connecticut who's just fine, and my family members can all call in, and we can call that person and say, oh yeah, I heard from your husband, I heard from your wife, I heard from the kids at college, everybody's fine. But make a plan and make sure that you make a disaster kit. The Red Cross actually has an emergency disaster kit that you can get from them. Contact the American Red Cross and get your disaster kit.
Yesterday, I just saw the Target has a bunch of first aid kits.
Yep.
For $29.99.
Yes.
These aren't just your typical first aid kits. These are huge. These are big. These are bigger than about the size of a laptop computer, maybe a little bigger, and it has everything you need in it, and already pre-made kits for you. So if you want to go there, you can get a kit there.
And not too heavy. They're not too heavy. You can carry it. Seniors can carry it. If you know that you have physical disabilities or physical impairment and you had to be evacuated from where you live, who would you call? Who could come and help you in an emergency? Who would you call to let them know where you are if you're moved?
Establish those connections.
Establish those emergency contact numbers. Establish those connections. This week was another one of those instances that reminds us that sometimes we have to consider the worst case scenario. Plan for the worst, hope for the best.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And moving on from there, yes, we were going to talk about school stories, so I'm going to talk about this kind of funny school story, sort of funny in a really twisted sort of way. Apparently a principal in Italy was dispensing some grades that some parents didn't appreciate for their children. In addition, he banned cell phones. And I understand in Italy that's a really big deal. Well, it must be, because some parents, grandparents, and others went to the school and they kind of beat up on the principal. Now
they beat him up.
Yeah. That's just kind of crazy. I'm saying, do not, in your anger, dispel justice upon the principal. What you should do is go to your PTA organization, schedule meetings with your principals and your teachers, and sit down and say, okay.
Yeah, 3 male relatives of the student, including the father and the grandfather of the student, punched and pushed Principal Ugo Castorina at the Lombardi Middle School in Bari on Saturday.
What a mess.
Oh boy.
They should have had a parent-teacher conference a long time ago.
Because of the grades on the student's report card and the recent phone ban.
Yeah, and about the phone ban.
They've run that for 22 years, it says.
Yeah, I understand that they don't necessarily like having the cell phones banned. Look,
Yeah,
kids, be
I don't
sensible.
like it either. Yeah, I
Keep
like,
your phone.
I think they should have
turn it
cell
off.
phones. Yeah.
Yeah, because if there's an emergency.
Yeah, if there's an emergency, we're just talking
might
about
need
this.
that phone.
You might need that phone. What if all the lines get knocked out? Then you can use your cell phone.
You can't use a landline. You could use a cell phone line.
Exactly.
We had our own 9/11 experience, of course, being so close to the Flight 93 crash site. The only phone call I was able to get out after the plane crash was on my cell phone. Had I not made that phone call to 911, I wouldn't have known what else was going on. And, I should say 2 phone calls, one to 911 and the other phone call to my family. And had I not been able to make that phone call to Pittsburgh, a lot of people wouldn't have known that we were all right on the ground, and provide key information about injuries, casualties, where the plane was, because once the lines went out, nobody could talk to anybody, causing great confusion for anyone who was outside of the region. Mm-hmm. So the cell phones worked, the landlines didn't. So
right.
It's very important that students, even in school, my daughter had her cell phone that day in school when the plane flew over their school. Sometimes you need to have those things. You never know. You hope for the best, but you need to plan for the most critical. So that's just emphasizing that one once again.
Yeah, my phone only worked in one room in the entire school, but the point is it worked.
It worked.
If I had to get service, I could go into this one room and get that. But that was my old phone.
Yeah. And the other story we're going to talk about was how...
the principal's all right, by the way.
Principal's okay.
He's all right. He was sent back to the school the same day for mild contusions. He's all right. Yikes.
Yeah, yikes.
All right, next up.
We were going to talk about the RAND program that was instituted in the Pittsburgh Public Schools and then removed out of the budget and taken out before they got the results that said, hey, this was a really good idea to help students with math. Here's the thing. When you have a superintendent who hasn't been in a classroom or been an administrator, he needs to pay particular attention to those around him who may know more about education than he does, which would be everyone around him. So it's important to wait for test results to come in before you axe programs that are actually working.
And for those who don't know what the RAND program is, can you explain what it is?
It's a math tutoring program to help students bring up their math grades. The company brought this in, I think it was in for 2 years, and it was actually starting to do some good. But those results weren't in at the point that the district decided to axe the program. I really think that no decision should be made on something that's implemented like that in a mere 2 years. I think 3 to 5 years on an elementary level, having actually been in a classroom, unlike the superintendent, it really takes that long to see how students are going to respond to things. I think you know pretty quickly if something isn't working, but you don't necessarily know as quickly if it is working. So you need to get results back from studies that are done by independent agencies before you make the decision to pull a plug on something and then, okay, now it's gone, but it was working. Because that puts children at greater risk. Mm-hmm. And then mixing things up, and then we're going to move them to different schools, or we're going to do this and that and the other. And, pretty much all these things that have been done recently are working to the detriment of the education of the student. And it's not just my personal opinion, but quite a number of individuals. So for those across the country who are facing issues of where new superintendents may come in and want to implement recent programs, look to see whether those intermediate programs that are in place, that are in maybe their second or third year, are actually working. And if you don't know if they're working or not, and you don't have the information available, get it before you decide to pull something. That's the first of a small Falcon rant for the week. A larger one will be coming shortly.
All right.
Now, on the happier note, gee, wouldn't it be neat to have a tricorder where we just wave it above you and find out whether or not you're sick and what kind of sickness you have? Mm-hmm. No poking, no prodding, just like Bones on Star Trek. Wouldn't that be cool? Well, it appears that somebody at, I believe it's Purdue University, isn't it, has come up sort of
Purdue, yep,
with a tricorder system. Oh, Tell them all about it, Dove.
All right, I'm going to read a little bit of this article here. Purdue researchers have come up with a handheld device that they say can determine the chemical composition of an object or detect trace elements on its surface, sort of like the tricorder that the actors used to whip out on Star Trek. The chemical analysis tool sprays a fine mist of charged water droplets onto an object. The water droplets cling to particles on the surface of the object. The ionized particles are separated and dried out. The chemicals that remain thus provide a chemical map to the surface of the item tested or the object itself. If there are skin cells or other organic tissue on something, the device will detect it. The system is really a combination of two existing devices, says R. Graham Cooks, the Henry Bonhas Distinguished Professor of Analytical Chemistry in Purdue University's College of Science. Yikes. The first is a DESI, or desorption electrospray ionization, the component that creates the fine mist. The other is a handheld spectrometer. Usually spectrometers are used in more controlled environments, with the sample being tested sitting in a vacuum. Cooks, though, says that the accuracy of the device is not thrown off by using it in the field. Instead, the only issue has been with size. Most lab spectrometers weigh about 300 pounds, while the handheld devices weigh about 20 pounds. The accuracy is quite good. You suffer a little bit because every time you miniaturize, you lose something. Now, the research team has used the device to analyze clothes, foods, and tablets, and to identify cocaine on $50 bills in less than a second. Commercially, the device may be used in the future to detect salmonella in food, biomarkers in urine, or explosive residues on suitcases. So, very cool.
I think that's very cool. Obviously, this has
save a lot of time.
Forensic possibilities. It could also detect sometimes bio-warfare type things, like topical sarin and things like that. And some spectrometers, obviously there are instruments that can measure gases in the air. If we could get something that could also measure things that have been placed on the surface and food-borne illnesses on surfaces, this has tremendous potential. I think it's really cool.
Remember that we also forgot to mention that what was it, salmonella breakout in peanut butter?
Oh my gosh.
Now, if we could use that and put it over the peanut butter and find out before we consume it, that would actually help and save a lot of people.
People, listen carefully, please. For those of you who think that salmonella, of course, salmonella was obviously more common in meat, and then eventually it made its way to vegetables because people were mishandling them. For those of you who think you bought that Walmart peanut butter a year ago and the salmonella is dead, wrong. It's still there, sealed inside your peanut butter jar. If it's been in your cabinet for a year and you open it and you put it on your bread and eat it, you will get sick. What degree of sick depends upon a number of things, the strain of salmonella and your own body. If your immune system is strong, you may be able to fight it off without too many problems. If you have some compromises to your immune system, this is extremely problematic. So, just because you think you have something that's old or it's been stored away and it can't possibly have that salmonella alive anymore to affect you, wrong-o, it will. So please, 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 pitch this stuff. Get rid of it. It's not worth it.
Right, and if it could detect E. coli in your salad and stuff.
E. coli, Giardia, any of that.
Hello, Prince.
Hello, Prince, who's decided to come up right in front of the microphone and do his heavy DJ, hey, baby, 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 breathing.
Yep.
There he is.
Prince.
There
All
he is,
right.
a heavy breather.
All right, so, yes. Please.
So, please, pitch the stuff. Throw it away.
Stuff.
It's bad. You can't make it good by keeping it longer. Now, what's our next one on the docket today?
Our next one is Susie Orman's book.
Oh, yes. Susie Orman's been pushing her new book this week.
Women and Money.
Women and Money. Sounds good to me. women money. But she says something very interesting. I actually saw her, I didn't do this deliberately, but I saw her about 3 or 4 times this week. And I think that what she was saying about how women treat money is very interesting. I heard one reviewer call it dysfunctional, the way that women treat money. But I think what it is that it's a different set of priorities, if you will. But she brings home an excellent point that, a lot of women and men too, let's face it, and students lack a certain amount of financial literacy. And women in particular tend to take what capital they do have and give it away to their family. Give it away to the husband, give it away to the kids, give it away to the dog, the cat.
We'll get to the dog stories in a bit, Princey.
Yes, the dog stories are coming.
We'll get to the dog stories.
They're coming. But I think that she brings up an excellent point because women tend to be very generous with what is theirs. And that is not necessarily the way that men have treated money over the years.
Okay.
Women have a different way of measuring cost and value. And they, collectively, we have not made the transition from a bartering system to a monetary system, even over these thousands of years. We did, past 2,000 years, we've been kind of switching to a monetary system rather than a bartering system, for the most part in the world. Mm-hmm. And it's hard for women to think of, if women were paid the true amount of their work in the home, they'd be making $100,000 a year just on that work. If they were paid for being the psychologist they have to be, and the mediator they have to be, and the child care supervisor they have to be, especially for the stay-at-home moms, and then on top of it, balancing the checkbooks, balancing the family budget, balancing all the relationships with every relative, keeping track of every anniversary and birthday and wedding, that's family planning. They'd be making probably somewhere around $350,000 to $500,000 a year. But no one's willing to pay women out of pocket for that. But I think it would be a good idea if we did. Because then women would actually be getting paid just a smidgen of what they're actually worth. The work that women do, whether it's with their children or in the workforce, is priceless. Yet women only make 78 cents for every dollar that men do in the United States, which is just plain stupid, because the bottom line is we're doing the same job. Don't tell me, guys, she's not doing the same job you are. She's not cutting out Wednesday afternoon to go to the golf course. Of course, she may be these days, and she may be whipping you with her tailor-made down the fairway, but generally speaking, women aren't. They're back there taking care of the office. They're back there taking care of the kids. When I was a young worker in my 20s and guys had to go home because their kid had a fever, or women had to leave because they were pregnant with bad sciatica, or there were family emergencies because they were taking care of parents, I was more than happy as a single worker who wasn't married at the time and didn't have any children to pick up the slack, because I knew one day that would be me. And I was perfectly happy in working those extra hours because I understood the larger body of who we are as Americans. But times have changed. Nobody appreciated that sacrifice. The corporations didn't appreciate the sacrifice. My immediate boss didn't appreciate the sacrifice. And certainly those people that I did the doubles and triple shifts for didn't appreciate that sacrifice, which is a shame, because now I'm the mom and I'm still making 78 cents on the dollar, and I'm being told that I'm not productive enough, and I'm being told that I don't think conscientiously enough about money and blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, I am part of the cog of the wheel that keeps the whole system running. So Susie Orman says, women, respect your contributions. You are priceless. Value your money. And further, in addition to her new book, she's got this thing going with, I guess it's Ameriprise, where you get
Ameritrade. Susie's plan is the Save Yourself plan, a streamlined 5-month program that allows you to 1. Create a healthy relationship with your money, 2, make more out of the money you have for yourself and those you love. And 3, gain the freedom to make your own choices. We're on her website here, and it says, but this plan isn't just about money. It's about every woman's sense of who she is and what she deserves, and why it all begins with the decision to save yourself. So, ladies, if you want to read my book, follow the Save Yourself plan, and open a Save Yourself account at TD Ameritrade, you can get $100.
Yeah, what you have to do is put $50 a month away for 12 months. They'll give you $100 in the TD Ameritrade
account. This is Susie Orman's website, SuzeOrman.com.
And, you know, we all know Susie knows money. So, students, she didn't say this was limited by gender or age or occupation. Do the same thing. Now, I heard a woman interview Susie and say, well, what do you do if you're a homemaker and you don't really have access to money? And Susie said, well, I think everybody could get $50 a month together. You know what? Susie's out of the loop. I know some people who would really seriously have difficulty getting $50 a month together. So I'm going to go one step further from Susie. If you're broke and you have no idea where you would get $50 of your own money from, here's some suggestions. Repeat after me. eBay. Now, suppose you're not computer fluent and you're saying, I can't go on eBay and do this by myself. There are actually businesses who, if you pick up your junk and take your stuff to them, they will set up your eBay thing. They'll put your ad on there for however many days or a week you want it for.
I can't remember the name of the organization that does
Google
that.
it. It'll come up in your respective city.
It was on TV. They had a commercial for it once.
And they'll sell the junk for you. You have junk. Everyone has junk. If you can't sell your junk, go to your sister's house and get her junk. Say, I'll clean your basement for you. For nothing. Just let me have your junk when I'm done. And your sister will go, you're a good sister. Thank you. And then you just haul that junk out of there, and you take that junk, all those old clothes and golf clubs and radios and collectibles and baby dolls and beanie babies and all that stuff, you know what I'm talking about. And take it, and for a very, very, very small fee, these guys will sell it for you. Once a week, ladies, drop the junk off, pick up the check. Drop the junk, pick up the check. Now, when you get the check, it's your money, right? Because you did the work, it's your money. Between running the kids to soccer practice, going to baseball games, going to basketball games, and the unheard of dentist appointment that just seems to come up out of nowhere, you can do this. Schedule it en route with your other things and start to take that and put that money away for you. That is going to be your not rainy day, your sunny day fund. That is your sunny day fund because it's going to be a savings account and it's for you. It's in your name only. Not your mom's, your dad's, your husband's, your brother's, your cat, your dog. Your name only. It's your money. Students, are you listening? I didn't hear an age limit on this thing. I don't see any reason why, if you're not legal age, you can't start to save some money. Mm-hmm. This will range by states, and I'm sure TD will tell you whether or not you're in range.
And starting early will prevent any debt that you get in the future.
Well, at least it'll cut it down.
It'll cut it down. Yeah, it'll cut it down. But obviously the goal is to get no debt whatsoever.
Exactly.
So you might as well start early, and it starts by being financially literate.
Yep. So if you have the opportunity to take local financial literacy classes, do it. If you have the opportunity to pick up Susie's book, do it. Can't afford Susie's book? There's probably some places online where you can read sections. And A-Books has it cheaper.
A-Books, ABEBOOKS.com. They have real cheap books.
Yep.
Go to the library. Go to the library.
Get on the waiting list. Take it out for free. But do it, learn it, because financial literacy is extremely important to your future. And there are so many things that you need to know. There are so many things that have changed even since my generation was coming up. We weren't collectively the most financially literate bunch some of us knew what was going on and some of us didn't, and some of us, they really didn't want us to know what was going on. So it was very difficult. Now you have the internet, you have the ability to get information at your fingertips. You don't have a computer, go to the library, use the computer there.
That's what it's there. That's what it's there for.
That's it.
The library, you got books there. You got internet access there, and I know it may be some boring to some people, but you need to know it. And once you know it, you'll be a lot more secure and have more peace of mind.
Now, let's say for some bizarre reason you still don't have enough junk. Okay, it could happen. Now, those of you who are very crafty, who may be, big on HGTV and love Martha Stewart, look, when I was a kid and back home in the country, we would get together for quilting days. Don't laugh. You get a group of women together and you put together a quilt, or you put together, you can knit, any of that kind of stuff. You put that together in a couple weeks. Now you have a really, really fine piece to auction off. Auction it off as something that is handmade and gloriously beautiful, because of course it is. And you get together with 3 or 4 friends and you make it and you sell it on eBay and you split the money. Now you have more money. Do what you love. Find some way to define yourself separately from the rest of the chaos of your life. If you have little kids, sooner or later, they're going to go to sleep. I know it doesn't seem like that, but they are. Take those few minutes to make your plans. Map them out. Do your gardening. There is always an opportunity for those who have a little bit of land, who do a little bit of good gardening, to take their herbs and sell them at their local co-op or at their local farmer's market. There is an opportunity to make something that you can call you. And you never know. Something that you may do that starts off as a small idea may snowball into something large. But give yourself the opportunity to become your own boss in something. Don't give it all away, because eventually you're going to need some for you. And how are you going to help everybody else if you can't help yourself? It's like when you're on the airplane and they say, oh, if there's turbulence, your mask will drop. And if you're riding with a child, make sure you put your mask on first and then put the mask on the child. Why do you think they say that? They say that because if you don't put your mask on, you can't help that child. The child may get their mask on, but they may pull it right back off again. And who's going to be there to help them if you aren't there? Take that same analogy and apply it to your financial life. How in the world are you going to help everybody else if you don't help you first? So, there you go.
All right, next story. Now we're into the doggy stories.
Ah, yes, doggy stories this week. There were some really cool doggy stories, really tragic doggy stories that have come up in the past couple of weeks. We wanted to acknowledge the doggy stories. There was a mixed breed hound who rescued and saved at the sacrifice of his own life his master, brother, dad, however you want to refer to the relationship between pet and their owner, from a bear, from a huge 500-pound black bear. The dog sacrificed himself when the bear attacked the man, and he was able to get away. He went back into the house, got a gun, went after the bear with the 30-30, and unfortunately the dog did not make it. They took him to an emergency veterinary place, and he did not survive the surgery. But kudos to his spirit. And it just shows you...
We honor dogs like that. What would we do without dogs?
What would we do? What? Well, for thousands of years, we've had a special relationship with dogs, whether they work with us or work for us or protect our homes or just bring a lot of joy and love. And there are so many service animals out there, not just dogs, but other animals. And, what would we do without these animals making these sacrifices? Which brings up the subject of Velvet who was the hero on Mount Hood by keeping her party warm during the middle of an intense blizzard and making sure that they stayed alive. She suffered frostbite on her hind parts and her tail, but she's okay, and they survived in part because Velvet laid across them all night, keeping them warm while they were in the middle of that horrific storm. So, Velvet, kudos to you. You are our heroine. We love you. We think you're very, very cool.
And that story gets, these stories get Prince's stamp of approval.
Yes, he's been waiting for us to do the doggy stories.
Prince's stamp of approval for dogs who help out people. Because dogs are people too.
That's right. So those are our big doggy stories for the week. Prince now leaving the building because the dog stories are over. There you go. It's amazing how he knows about this. Now, this next story is a story that requires a little history lesson. And for those of you who are taking AP history right now, I guarantee you probably won't get this one in class, but it's definitely one that I think should be brought to dialogue this week among everybody, but particularly my Zeligi, my Cherokee brothers and sisters. There is a vote happening today. By the time you hear this podcast, it will be over. And depending on how it goes, I may bring it up next week. I don't know. But this is a vote that I have many, many, many mixed emotions about. Actually, I don't have mixed emotions about it. I'm really clear. I think that we shouldn't have even had to have this vote. But there it is. I feel like I need to apologize to the world for the fact that we're having the vote, because it's something that divides people rather than unites. So I'm just a tad embarrassed. No, I'm hugely embarrassed. I'm sorrowful on a soul level about this. Many people know the Cherokee, the Choctaw, the Chickasaw as some of the 5, quote, civilized, end quote, tribes. And there were several reasons why they were called that, mostly because they didn't want to fight the Europeans coming in, or didn't put up as big of a fight as I guess the Europeans thought they were getting from some other tribes. And one of the things that happened, because these tribes were southern tribes principally, during a rather dark time in U.S. history, were that some of these tribes were actually slave owners. Now, for those of you who do not know that there were Native American tribes who owned slaves, you may now pick up your jaw off the floor and continue to breathe, and if there's a defibrillator nearby, you might want to get a hand on it. Yeah, there were Native American tribes who owned slaves. After the Civil War, in 1866, there was a treaty concerning land allocation and the fact that those slaves who were, quote, owned by the native tribes would become freemen recognized by the respective tribes that had previously owned them, so that their children and their children's children would be recognized as members of the tribe. Now, this really isn't such of a leap, because for thousands of years in the Americas, if there were battles among native peoples, and particularly here in the northeastern bands, and there was a disagreement over something, and the losing side was, okay, you lost, so you lost, and now we're going to absorb you into our tribe. That was fairly common. For example, here in southwestern Pennsylvania, Chief Aliquippa, there's a town named Aliquippa, named after her. There was some Lenni Lenape, Delaware Indian, if you will, who came into the region. Her band and their band had a little battle. Her band won, and she immediately said, okay, war's over. Now you become our cousins. You're our brothers and sisters. We will live together here. You'll live as part of us. So we had been doing this for thousands of years, no problem. So really, the Treaty of 1866 was really not that big a deal in terms of what we had done in our history. We absorb people as part of our family. So it brings me to great pain in my soul to say that today we saw fit to have an election to decide whether or not the recognized freemen who have been part of our nation all of these years would in fact be expelled as freemen. Now, I don't really have command of the vocabulary to bring up how wretched I think having to even do this vote is. Because let's face it, it's not really about blood, because the freemen were declared freemen by individuals who were observing them and recording them onto the Dawes rolls. Now, for those of you who don't understand what the Dawes rolls are, there were several rolls of Native American censuses that were done mostly in the 19th and very early 20th centuries. The Dawes roll was a rather arbitrary roll that made a visual decipherment of who was Indian and who was freeman, African American. Now remember, some of these, quote, freemen were actually the offspring of some Native and African consort, but nobody bothered to keep track of that, nor did they care. There was an eyeballing of, well, if you look Indian to me, then I'm going to write you down as Indian, and if you don't look Indian to me, I'm going to write you down as freeman or black. And gosh, if I can't figure it out, but if you got some white blood in you, then of course you're going to be Indian if you really want to be. So then I'll write you down as Indian. That's pretty much how it was done. It was very arbitrary. There was actually no science to this at all. And that declaration is being used to discriminate, if you will, against 250,000 members of what is today's Cherokee Nation. Again, I'm lacking the vocabulary to articulate how obscene I think this is. I have ancestors on the Dawes roll. I have ancestors on the Gurien Miller roll. They are not listed as freemen because they were full bloods. But I do carry Afrocentric blood today because my ancestors married, and I am proud to carry that blood. But right now, I am sure all of my generations are just a little bit saddened about the fact that our people, Zalagi, the people, one people, the same people who fought in the wars side by side in segregated units in World War I and World War II and the Korean War and the Vietnam War and the Gulf War, and today who fight side by side as the people, the same people who have lived side by side for a century and a half plus, the same people who in emergencies and in times of tornadoes and floods and hurricanes have helped to rebuild the housing of the people, are now being told, well, you know, maybe you're not the people. Maybe you're those people. I never think it's a good idea for anybody to start dividing themselves amongst themselves on the basis of something as arbitrary as what ethnicity they may actually be. But if you really want to do something this grossly and believably morally reprehensible, then let's do it right. Let's get the entire Cherokee Nation together for a swab session. Let's lick those swabs in our mouths, get each cheek, and get our DNA tested, and then we'll find out who really is blood and who's been pretending to be blood and who has a right to vote as the people. If you really want to get stupid, let's do it right. And I think you'd find out that some of those freemen are actually people of blood. And some of those who've been acting like they were blood all these years may not be. Let's find out. If you really want to be stupid over who's going to get the casino money, because we all know this comes down to money, then let's really find out who is. Let's find out who everybody is. Let's test the whole United States of America. Let's find out how many white people are white people, how many black people are really black people, and what else they got. And let's find out what everybody's got.
Because everybody's mixed.
Everybody's everything.
Everybody's mixed. Nobody is white, black, or Indian. Everybody's got a little bit of everything.
And I know that there are people out there just living in denial. There's 30,000 G's.
Like, oh, I'm white, or I'm just black, or I'm just this. I'm 100% this. You are not 100% anything.
I'm just so sick of it.
Okay?
I could just hurl. So,
nobody is 100% of any one thing.
What is this? The Kennel Club? Are we AKC registered? No, we're not.
Again,
we're
we
people.
shouldn't be talking about this in the first place, but we have to.
But since we have to, because there was a vote. There was a vote to decide whether or not to disenfranchise, to expel 250,000 people.
The descendants of the freedmen who used to be slaves.
Yes. And who may in fact have blood, but we don't know.
Expelled out of the Cherokee Nation.
Maybe they do, maybe they don't.
And if they did that, that would override a 141-year-old treaty that has worked for this long.
And I don't see any of them lining up trying to get casino money. I know I have rights and I haven't, because I don't really care. What I do care is about my heritage, my history, my ancestors. And I care about honoring what it means to be Zeligi. And what it means to be Zeligi is that we are the teachers. We are the bringers of light. We're the ones who are supposed to bring people together. We are the ones who are the moderators and the mediators, the teachers, the guidance counselors, the nurses and doctors, the healers. That has been our tradition, to help others learn, to help others heal. And it is not our tradition to turn our back on our people. Yes, our people. They're all our people. And I am hoping that my voting brothers and sisters remember that we are all one people. That is the Falcon rant for today. I will not speak of this again unless the vote goes ill and we have decided to throw 250,000 people out of our tribe. I sincerely hope that that will not happen, because that makes me sad. It makes me sad as a Zeligi. It makes me sad as an American. And it makes me sad as a human being that we are discussing any of this. Over 4 to 6 cell difference in our DNA. We need to stop this. We are living in the illusion and not in the reality of who we are as beautiful people. And whatever faith you come from, if you don't believe that's an intrinsic part of it, then maybe it's time for a little reflection. Maybe it's time for a little introspection. Because I don't recall any good sacred book anywhere saying we need to hate somebody over what color they are. I don't. You got one? You find it for me? You let me know. But no sacred text tells you to hate other people or to divide yourselves over your color. So it's time for us to grow the heck up and hug each other and love each other and stop this stuff. Because this is a sneeze of a much larger cold. And it's not just in this country, it's around the world. Everybody's getting xenophobic. It's time to stop the madness. Anybody want to take it up with me? Email me. You know where I'm at. I'm done.
We don't think that expelling 250,000 people is any small thing.
Okay. Falcon feels better now. Or not necessarily better, but at least I vented. Mm-hmm. And now we're going to make a segue into talking about some fun stuff that's coming up for this spring and summer. Everybody don't forget 070707 Live Earth. Like
Al
Live
Gore's
Aid.
event. Al Gore's event.
And it's our event.
It's our event.
It's the world's event on global warming.
If you don't like Al Gore, we don't care.
Get over it.
Get over it.
It's not about him.
It's not about him.
It's
about this global event that is happening in absentia of his participation. So
it will happen with him. It'll happen without him. It'll happen. And
he just happens to be the one who started this thing. So get past him. Get your head out of your butt. Wake up.
The reason the dove is going off about this is because yesterday we were at a rather public event, and this woman said, "Well, I would really love to see an inconvenient truth, and I'd love to find out more about global warming, but I just don't like him." And I'm like,
I don't like Al Gore.
You gotta be kidding me, okay? I'm not gonna go through that tunnel because I just don't like that color orange they used in there.
Yeah,
you know?
that's what it's saying.
Come on, okay? Remember
that's like remember the present. I'm not gonna open that present because I don't like the wrapping.
Because I don't like the wrapping paper. That's
my
whole issue about race. I'm not gonna celebrate that individual because I don't like their wrapping paper.
Exactly.
Over.
Okay. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway.
So we got Live Earth going on this summer. Got a lot of things going on this summer. Really great for the Harry Potter fans out there, and great for the world in terms of Live Earth and to save the Earth from ourselves.
Dove is all about Harry, right? So she's got some interesting Harry news. So you Harry fans, Dove has got some good news. Standing ovation for Dan Radcliffe at Equus.
At Equus.
Wow.
Equus just opened.
Let's
all
give
right.
him
Go
some
Dan.
props.
Go Dan.
First of all, you got to be a confident young man to do that role. You know what I mean?
To do that role of the character of Alan Strang. For those who don't know, Equus is a play about a disturbed teenager who blinds 6 horses. And then he has this, and the relationship with his psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist is trying to figure out why he committed this crime. So it's a really psychological drama that Equus.
Yeah, it's from the early 70s.
And it's been done a couple times. This is a revival. And the press week went really, really well. Got standing ovations there. All the reviews are glowing, and it's great. And now it was just shown to the public last night or the night before last. And Dan got a standing ovation. Everybody on stage got a huge standing ovation, and that is really cool. And like I said last time we talked about this, I am so proud of Dan. I'm so proud of him.
Well, I'm proud of young actors who are
so brave to do something like
their
that.
way. And I'm still a mom, and I'm kind of going naked, but I'm okay, and I'm recovering because if my daughter did something like that at the same age, I'd go, "Are you crazy?" But I'm okay. I'm handling it well. And I think that, this is going to be a phenomenal opportunity for him.
He's first and foremost an actor.
An actor. He's an actor.
He's an actor. He's not any one character. He's not Harry Potter. He's an actor.
Thank goodness he's not Harry Potter, because Harry Potter's life stinks. The poor kid has a lousy life. This guy's always chasing after him, and if it's not him, it's those nasty Dementor dudes that look like ring rates on crack. I mean, what in the world? This poor kid can't get a break. He just wants to go to school for a year and be left alone. Nobody try to kill him. Nobody disguise themselves and try to kill him. I mean, just give the kid a break. I know Dan Radcliffe's glad he's not Harry Potter. I think he's going to be thrown book 7, hey, whatever it may be, but at least I'm not that kid. Hey.
And I'm just going to have a little mini rant for just 1 minute. I promise. It'll only be 1 minute. I am sick and tired of all of these newspaper articles and these online articles cracking these stupid jokes about Dan Radcliffe being Harry Potter. Is Harry Potter and the Missing Pants was the headline of one of these articles.
Ouch.
For crying out loud.
Ouch.
and Harry Potter and the blah. Harry Potter and the blah. And the naked whatever.
He's not Harry Potter, and Harry Potter's not naked, because Harry Potter is a fictitious character.
Yeah, like Harry Potter goes naked. Like stuff like that, alright? I am sick and tired of that, and I'm tired of the stupid jokes that he's been getting, because apparently that's journalism. So maybe I need to get over it, but it's stupid because he's not Harry Potter. And another thing, I'm tired of all these people thinking like, oh, he's going to be Harry Potter his whole life, and then there's the people who don't like the fact that he's going naked and
not after this play he won't be.
No.
He's just fine. He's separated himself from
he's broadening his horizons. He's very focused on how people see him as an actor. He wants to be seen as a serious actor, and I just wish that people would let him do that instead of trying to put him in this little box and expect him to stay there.
Well, you know what, though? It's the media. Nobody who's a serious critic and, anyone who's concerned with the arts, nobody in that genre, nor in his fandom kingdom, have tried to do that. It's all been a media thing. That's only come from media sources.
Only media.
And they're just looking
this is
to
not
make,
WB. I know there was some stupid rumor out there saying that Warner Brothers had a big problem with Dan Radcliffe choosing this role. No. That's false. Ignore the stupid tabloids. They're false. WB, a WB...
Tabloids are false? You mean Bat Boy? Is it really, over in Kansas right now? Because, I saw him on the cover last week. He's out, every 8 weeks. I've noticed that. Bat Boy goes someplace else, and whatever happened to that two-headed dog? You mean tabloids make things up?
You mean the three-headed dog? It's Fluffy.
That's Fluffy. That's Cerberus. Of course, there's a three-headed dog.
Welcome to the gates
I'm
of
talking
hell.
about that two-headed dog.
No.
Oh, you mean tabloids?
Yeah.
Lie? And create stories sometimes?
A WB spokesperson.
Wow.
A WB spokesperson has actually had to put out a press release denying these stupid rumors, saying that they loved what Dan was doing, and they've had a great relationship with him, and they support him in any endeavors that he does in his acting career, and I'm so glad of that. So if you heard that rumor, it's false.
Of course they do, because they are making money.
They're making lots of money. So kudos to Dan. Kudos to Dan. This is, and there's also in related news, Broadway seems to want to get Equus over here in New York. They'd like to get him over here, and I'd like that to happen, because then Americans would be able to see it. I know a lot of Americans have been expressing interest in the play and want to see
interest. Yeah, they want to see the play.
The horse, yeah.
Yes, that beautiful horse.
Okay, and which would be great. So I'm behind it, but in order for them to do that legally, they'd have to wait till he turns 18. So,
there you go.
Because it's 16 over there, it's 16 over here.
18.
18 over here, 16 over there, I think, for you to go naked on stage.
And it must be 16 because he's 17 and he's naked.
Yeah, he's 17. So he turns 18 this July, so it would have to be after then.
Okay.
So anyway, in also related news, Order of the Phoenix got 10,000 screens this year.
Booked for
10,000 screens in July 13th when it comes out.
That's a lot of screens.
That's a lot of screens.
That's a lot of screens. Anything else coming out on July 13th?
That's how many orcs there were at Helm's Deep.
There we go. How many guys dressed in orc costumes?
In the Lord of the Rings and Two Towers.
Yeah.
That's how many orcs.
That's a lot of screens. That's a lot of money. Anything else coming out that day?
Oh, geez, I forgot. I forgot the movie. There's another movie coming out that day.
Wait a minute. That scary movie with Samuel L. Jackson comes out that day. 1408. Isn't that it? That scary movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. The guy checks into 1408.
It's a hotel. Yeah, 1408. Yeah.
That's what comes out that day.
Yeah, another thing... Yes, that's it. That's it, because if you add 1 + 4 + 8, you get 13.
Yes,
so
that's
the release date.
Yes.
Friday the 13th. So that comes out that day. So it may get a bunch of people, because it doesn't look terribly bad.
No, it actually looks kind of neat.
He's a writer. His daughter dies, and since then he's been writing all these horror stories about death and everything, and he hears about this haunted room, and he wants to stay in there, and Samuel L. Jackson's character says, no, don't stay in there, because everybody who checks into that room dies in an hour. And
well, they either check out in an hour, Or
no one lasts longer than an hour.
They said 56 people died in that room or something.
56 people
John
died.
Cusack.
Yeah.
That's the other guy. That's
John Cusack. He
John
plays
Cusack
the
and
writer.
Samuel Jackson.
He plays the writer. So, and then when he checks into there, it seems like all of his horror stories start coming to life for him.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting. And a lot of people might see that, but it's definitely Harry's day on Friday the 13th.
When you have 10,000 screens, it's your day. You own the weekend.
Okay, and one more bit of Harry Potter news. There's a petition online now. I just remembered this to have an International Harry Potter Day. There's actually a petition now. It's harrypotterholiday.com if you want to sign the petition. And there's a debate of which date it should be if it were to happen. And this guy, his name's Tommy. I forget which state he's based in, but he's over here. He started this website, and his goal in between February 21st and July 21st, when Book 7 comes out, he hopes to get 1 million signatures on this thing. And if he gets 1 million, then he might get an International Harry Potter Day. And so
I could see you doing something with Literacy Council or something like that.
Right. It's not just Harry Potter. He wants it to be a book day to celebrate literacy.
International Book Day
to celebrate literacy.
Didn't we just have Book Day?
World Book Day.
Yeah, World Book Day.
Yeah,
we just had. Well, what day is that? March 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah, World Book Day.
No, World Book Day, but they want to set a day to celebrate the whole series and celebrate literacy and children's literacy and I think it's a good idea. And he also says once he gets 10,000 signatures from any one country, he will take those signatures to the leaders of that country and see what happens.
Hey, kids should read books every day. Adults should read books every day.
Yes.
How often do we get to actually read?
Which is why we need to have more International Book Days.
Yes, more book days.
More book days. So I am fully behind this because
we don't take enough time out to necessarily read a lot of books, although I try to. Mm-hmm. And I have stacks.
Because everybody's busy.
In the hallway, in boxes, to prove that I am trying to read all my books.
Right, you were trying to read Aragon last time.
Yes, I was trying to read Aragon. I finished Ruth Brown story, which was a really great
I'm trying to get
book.
to Philip Pullman's The Golden Compass. I think that's Philip Pullman. Jeez.
Because that's coming out in film, isn't it?
Yeah, Golden Compass. Yes, that's another fantasy film that's adaptation that is coming out soon.
Is Ghost Rider still number one?
I think so.
Yeah.
Ghost Rider. Yeah,
that's cool.
From the comic book series.
I haven't seen it yet. I'm embarrassed to say I haven't seen it yet, but I want to see it because, of course, you got Peter Fonda.
I want to see The Messenger.
You got Nicolas Cage. They said that was weak.
No,
we'll see.
It focuses on the kids being susceptible to the paranormal.
I want to see Amazing Grace. Maybe
Amazing
I should have
Grace,
some people in my tribe see Amazing Grace.
And the number 23.
That's what I should do.
The number 23, Jim Carrey, and
send them all some tickets.
And something other than a comedy. Yeah, so 10,000 screens. All right, and Harry Potter Summer. That's what they're calling it. Summer to remember.
Middle of July.
Middle of July, yeah. July.
Don't forget Captain Jack Sparrow is coming up this summer as well.
Yes. Mm-hmm. We're getting Spider-Man. We're getting Pirates of the Caribbean. In 2008, we'll get the Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian, along with the 6th Harry Potter movie.
Everybody keeping track of those installments?
Yes, you keep installments. You will never hear me say the word sequels.
They're not.
They're not.
By definition, they're installments.
Installments.
Yes. Not sequel.
Yes.
Is that misused by those journalists again who make things up?
Yes.
I thought so.
Like conference instead of convention.
Yes.
And symposium versus okay.
There we go.
That's a whole other episode where we distinguish between these words that these media moguls use.
Incorrectly.
So,
Incorrectly. We will discuss this in future weeks.
So I guess, oh wow, all right. So
that's a wrap.
That's a wrap. So we're gonna finish with a quote of the week here. Quote of the week. I actually didn't get to find one this week, so I'm just gonna look at my trusty little quote widget. And try to find one here. Oh, this one's funny. All right. Oh, here we go. This is perfect. All right. Here's our quote of the week. A lie gets halfway around the world before the truth has a chance to get its pants on. Sir Winston Churchill.
That's right. Mr. Churchill was
all you yellow
right.
journalism people. Stop spreading rumors.
And those who kind of forget their own history. Yep. Sometimes you just have to remind them. Every once in a while, it's good to bring up the truth.
Yeah.
Just for
and this is our goal with this podcast, to talk about the truth. Get right down to the bare bones of things, bring it to you, and enlighten people. That's
do
what
we have
want
a
to do.
scholarship of the week this week?
Scholarship of the week. Oh goodness! I was on FastWeb. Haha, another plug for FastWeb. I was on FastWeb yesterday and saw a whole bunch of them. There's College Matters is coming up.
Ah yes, College Matters.
The College Matters scholarship is coming up. It's due March 15th, I think.
Okay, so hear that, prospective college students and already college students.
College
who can
Matters.
still apply
It's
for
online.
things.
You fill it out online, so you don't have to mail anything. It's all online. You write a couple essays. They want it done a specific way, but it's a one-page application on their website. collegematters.org. It's not there anymore. They made it a different website. Maybe they'll have a forwarding
it will
link.
forward,
They
yes.
had some technical difficulties with their collegematters.org website, so it's a different website now. So just Google College Matters Scholarship, and it should come right up.
Exactly. Fastweb.com, FASTWEB.
The scholarship aggregator.
Yes.
So you can find out about this scholarship and more. And more. And I think all seniors are eligible for the College Matters one, but there's so many more scholarships out there.
And you don't have to be a senior. If you're in 8th grade or older, it's time for you to start looking at scholarship opportunities. You can earn those now and save those for your senior year.
Exactly.
And that means less debt. Remember we were talking about financial literacy? You want less loan debt.
If you are a sophomore in high school, now is the time to start gathering scholarships.
Absolutely.
Because some of those scholarships out there are just valid for those years in high school.
That's right.
And just valid for your sophomore year, or your junior year, or even your freshman year. So
well, that's why I said
you can
8th
start
grade or
your
older.
freshman year.
If you're in your second semester of your 8th grade year right now, or however you count your school year, if you're in 8th grade, you should take a look at getting registered on fastweb.com, because there are a lot of scholarships. They'll start off small, $500, $1,000, and then as you get older, there will be greater opportunities for greater scholarships. Some only available in those specific years. But the key here is get your feet wet, apply for some, see what you get. The more that you accrue, the greater opportunity you have to make all of your ends meet when you go to college, so that you don't have to accrue loan debt, because college loan debt is evil. It is. It used to be public money for the most part. Now it isn't. It's run by private companies who are sucking the blood right out of you and your parents. And I'm not afraid to say that. So, if you can avoid the blood-sucking vampire of college loan debt, then you can. You should, right? So, get as much of your own money together as you can, and you're not going to be able to do that just by working your high school job.
Right.
You need to earn some scholarship money. You know, taking a few minutes out or a couple of hours out to write an application for a scholarship that may make you $1,000. That's good money. That's well spent time.
Put the thought into it. Do one at a time at first. Just keep doing that. And write those essays, and never be afraid to write. If you don't like writing right now, then get into writing, because you're going to end up doing a lot of writing. But really, it's the easiest way to get scholarships, to get free money. And another thing I forgot today, there was an eclipse today, wasn't there?
Yes, there was.
A solar eclipse, and there's going to be another...
Lunar eclipse.
Lunar, yeah, that's what I meant. A lunar eclipse, and there's going to be another one in October or August.
Yeah, we have another one this year.
We're going to have two lunar eclipses this year. Pretty
cool for those of you who had clear skies and could see it this evening, because this is the day we're recording on. It is going to be, I think, an interesting spring. Don't forget, we are going to have some global warming conferences on March 20th. For those of you who are interested in finding out more about that, make sure you get on Google and global warming conference, and the date March 20th, 2007. and see what pops up. We're going to have some interesting guests in the next few weeks, interesting guest hosts.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yes, we're going to be interviewing people.
We're going to have some science people.
Exciting people coming on.
We're going to have some culture people. It's some artists. It's going to be really, really, really intensely fun.
Really, really good fun. And as always, if you have a story or a topic that you would like us to talk about, feel completely free to email us at falcondove, that is FALCONDOVE, at arayasimmons.com, AREYASIMMONS.com. Falcondove at arayasimmons.com with your feedback, your suggestions, your questions, your comments, anything that you would like us to talk about on the show. Feel free to email us or just give us some feedback.
We really, really appreciate your support. Thank you so much for hanging out with us this evening. I am the Falcon.
And I am the Dove.
We wish you all the best. Have a blessed week. Peace out.
Peace out.